They said Mars would be the next home of humanity, but they never said what it would cost to make the planet breathe. When the storms came and the oxygen began to fall, one woman stood between a dying colony and the silent red dust waiting to claim it. No weapons, no miracles, just her hands, and a broken machine that refused to quit. This is the story of a place that forgot how to live, and the gardener who taught an entire world to take one more breath. Stay with it. Because by the end, you'll understand that saving a planet doesn't always begin with power. Sometimes it begins with patience. Monday morning, the surface temperature dropped by 3 degrees. The weather report called it normal seasonal drift. Red light seeped over the ridge and slid across the valley. It caught on the glass domes first, turning every algae tank into a faint red lantern. Dust already lay on the solar panels. A fine layer of powder blurred the reflections and dulled the morning shine. Mara Ilwin squinted at the nearest roof through her visor. The outer surface looked frosted, but she knew it was all iron and sand. She tapped the side of her helmet. The display woke, showing pressure, temperature, and a slow pulse of green along the CO2 lines. The pumps were humming under her boots. Old pistons, old seals, old wiring held together by 2 things: spare parts and her hands. She stepped along the maintenance walkway above tank row 1. Below her, the algae beds glowed a soft, shifting green. Tiny bubbles rose in steady streams. Carbon dioxide went in through thick gray pipes. Oxygen left through fine blue lines that ran off toward the living quarters. Life went both ways every minute. She listened to the pumps through the metal. The sound came as a steady low thrum and an occasional tired click. Mara was 63 and knew every click by memory. Some sounded like old friends clearing their throats. Beyond the glass, the rest of Mars sat cold and thin. No birds, no trees, just dust and rock under a weak sky. Inside Red Valley, the air smelled faintly of metal, algae, and recycled heat. It was not Earth, but it was something that could keep a child breathing. That was enough for her. She checked the main CO2 manifold. The readings showed intake flow within target bands. Pressure steady. Temperature a little low but safe. Oxygen output hovered just under 19%. She liked that number. Too low and people got headaches and heavy limbs. Too high and a single spark turned a room into a torch. 19.3 was where she wanted it. Breathable without begging for a fire. Her thumb rested on the metal housing. The pump vibrated against her skin through the glove. "You hold steady," she said softly. "No drama today." The pump did not answer. It just kept moving gas the way it had for 12 years. For a moment, Mara let herself imagine the valley as a single chest. All the domes, all the tanks, all the lines. Inhale. Exhale. Some days she felt like the only pair of lungs paying attention. Footsteps rang on the walkway behind her. Lighter, quicker, uneven in rhythm. "Morning, Mara," a young voice called. "I brought the data slate you wanted." She turned. Rye Calder jogged up beside her, helmet clipped to his belt instead of on his head. His hair stuck up in 3 different directions. His eyes were red from another late shift staring at screens. "You should wear that," she said, nodding at the helmet. "Filters do not work on your belt," Rye grimaced but pulled it on. "It fogs when I breathe too hard." "Then breathe slower," Mara said. "Mars is not going to hurry for you," he laughed once. "Maybe not for me, but the Terraform Authority keeps sending messages about efficiency." He held out the slate. Numbers scrolled in pale blue columns. "East Dome sector consumption, last 72 hours, he said, plus projections for the next storm cycle. Mara took the slate. Her thumb swiped across graphs of oxygen use and carbon output. "Projections are guesses," she said. "These are numbers. I trust these first." "You are going to hurt the AI's feelings," Rye said. He grinned, but his eyes watched her carefully. "The AI does not breathe," Mara replied. "It does not get a vote." She paused on one graph. The line for oxygen dipped and rose like a slow heart under stress. "Here," she said. "What is this oscillation?" Rye leaned closer. "Minor feedback, we think. Nothing outside safety bands." "Minor is not nothing," Mara said. "Amplitude?" 0.3% cycle every 40 seconds, he answered. He had done his homework. "That is not noise," she muttered. "That is someone turning a dial." Rye frowned. The control signals route through Solport. They say everything is locked down. Solport is 3 minutes away by light, Mara said. Control signals still take 2 seconds to reach our valves. She tapped the slate to highlight one peak. If someone injects a command at the wrong moment, pressure spikes before a human can react. Rye opened his mouth, then closed it. So what do we do? We watch, Mara said. And we do not hand the whole valley to a program that calls us variables. They walked back toward the control hub at the edge of East Dome sector. Transparent panels curved overhead, turning the red sky into a muted ceiling. Inside the hub, the air felt drier and cooler. Screens covered 3 walls, each filled with tiny icons for domes and tanks. Toma Ren waited by the central console. His uniform was perfectly pressed, every seam in place. Took you long enough, he said. We have a call with Terraform Authority in 10 minutes. I was making sure people can breathe during your call, Mara said. She set the slate down with more force than needed. Toma's smile was thin. The system reports stable output. No cause for alarm. The system does not walk the pipes, Mara replied. It does not hear the pump's age. Toma gestured at the main display. Icons for Red Valley glowed in calm green tones. Project Eris is designed to scale beyond ground inspection, he said. Automation is the only way we meet expansion targets. Rye shifted his weight. You wanted to talk about power cuts, sir, he said. Yes, Toma said. East Dome is over budget again. The authority wants reallocations to support the new synthetic oxygen arrays. Mara's jaw tightened. The arrays that do not exist yet, she said. They are in late prototype, Toma replied. And they are cleaner, more efficient, and do not require open water. Rye looked between them. What about the algae beds? He asked. Toma spread his hands. We are phasing them down in low-density sectors. That includes part of Red Valley. Mara stared at the screen. Little sections of the map blinked yellow where cuts were planned. You cut power to these tanks, she said. You cut buffer capacity. The new arrays will compensate, Toma answered. The AI has confirmed it. Mara turned to Rye. You trust that? He hesitated. I trust the math, he said quietly. The math is only as honest as the one who writes the variables, Mara said. People still choose what matters, Toma sighed. Mara, no one is dying, he said. We are just optimizing. We have targets to meet. Targets do not faint when oxygen dips, she replied. Children do, the call reminder chimed. Toma moved to the side console and linked to Solport. Mara stepped closer to the main graph of oxygen output. The oscillation was still there. The line dipped again by 0.3%, then climbed back up. Rye spoke softly beside her. It is still within safety bands. Safety bands are not magic, she said. They are just lines someone drew on a chart. He looked at the numbers, then at her face. What do you think it is? I think someone is testing our system, she said. Seeing how much they can push before alarm sound. Outside, the sky had grown paler. The ridge on the horizon blurred at the edges. Rye walked to the small window at the back of the hub. He wiped dust from the glass with his sleeve. Is it just me? He asked. Or is that storm line thicker than yesterday? Mara joined him. The horizon looked smudged, as if a giant hand had dragged charcoal across it. That is not just you, she said. First dust front of the season. Central says wind speeds are within norms, Rye said. He checked the feed on his wrist display. Central is not standing in this valley, Mara replied. Storms on Mars do not read our norms. The first gust hit the dome a few minutes later. Fine dust rattled against the outer skins like soft rain. Inside the hub, the sound came as a distant, dry hiss. Filters spun up to higher speed. Toma ended his call and turned back. Good news, he said. The authority approved the power shift. We start tapering this week. Mara did not answer at once. Her eyes tracked the wind data. Gusts climbed from 20 to 30 meters per second. Visibility at the valley rim dropped. Central still reports stable? She asked. Stable, Toma said. Everything is within parameters. Mara looked at the tiny green icons and then at the gray smear across the glass. Her chest felt tight in a way that had nothing to do with oxygen levels. I am going out, she said. Rye stared at her. In this wind? The outer valves are old, she said. If the oscillation is tied to pressure, I want my own eyes on them. Toma shook his head. That is unnecessary risk, Mara. The AI has full diagnostics. The AI has 2 seconds of delay and no skin, she answered. I have both. She walked to the equipment locker and pulled down an Ares 3 suit. Its paint was scratched, sealant patched along the arms and chest. You are not cleared for field work anymore, Toma said. You are 63. Mara checked the seals with steady hands. You are welcome to hold your breath in here and trust your graphs, she said. I will walk the line. Rye stepped forward. I will go with you, he said. You will stay here and watch the numbers, she replied. If they start to slide, you shout before any AI does. He swallowed. Yes, ma'am. She sealed the helmet. The world narrowed to her own breath and the quiet voice of the suit systems. Pressure equalized. Temperature dropped. She stepped through the airlock into the service corridor that led out to the fields. Dust scraped along the outer wall like a rough hand. The first valve station waited 800 meters away. Its icon glowed steady green on her wrist display. 3 hours later, a sheet of dust covered the whole valley. From inside the domes, it looked like someone had drawn a red curtain across the sky. On the 4th day, the storm warning shifted to red level. The valley reports called it a rare peak event. Inside the control hub, the air felt thicker. Not from dust, from silence. Mara Ilwin stood over the main console. 30 icons on the west side of Red Valley were dark. No output. No error codes, just gone. Rye Calder ran a quick diagnostic. His fingers moved fast across the panel, but his breathing was uneven. I checked local fuses, he said. No trips. No hardware fault flags. Mara watched the map. Project Eris spread across the valley like a nervous system. Tanks for algae, pipes for CO2, lines for oxygen leading into homes where people still slept. Show me the last 10 minutes of data, she said. Rye brought up the feed. For each of the 30 domes, oxygen output fell smoothly to 0. No spikes, no noise. No one shuts down that clean in a storm, Mara said. Not out there. Toma Ren stepped closer. He had his collar zipped to his chin and a calm expression fixed on his face. Could be a routing update, he said. Central has been testing new load balancing for the synthetic arrays. Mara did not take her eyes off the map. Did they tell us that? She asked. Toma hesitated. They sent a notice about possible fluctuations, he said. Fluctuations are up and down, she replied. This is down and gone. Rye zoomed in on one of the dark domes. Telemetry cut off at the junction node, he said, where the fiber lines come together under the east ridge. Mara looked at the storm readout. Surface wind speed had climbed past 40 meters per second. Dust density doubled since morning. Static charge warnings flashed amber along the top of the screen. Fiber insulation on Mars glass melts at around 180 degrees, she said. We are not there yet. No lightning strikes near the junction, Rye added. Nothing that intense. Toma crossed his arms. The catenary effect can still produce arcs in high dust, he said. He sounded as if he was quoting a training file. Yes, Mara said. But arcs leave scars. The system knows how to scream when it is burned. She tapped one of the blank icons. A fine gray outline pulsed once. No numbers filled in. Rye pulled up the raw signal log. Lines of timestamps and encoded packets scrolled past. Wait, he said. There is something here. He filtered by source tags. A cluster of packets glowed in blue. These came in right before the drop, he said. From a relay I do not recognize. Mara leaned closer. Origin, she asked. Rye opened the header. The source field read a name she had not seen on a live report in years. Oxyplex A. That station is dead, Mara said. It was mothballed before you were born. Rye swallowed. Central keeps a skeleton network for it, he said. For logging faults and structural drift. Toma frowned at the screen. It is a ruin, he said. No one goes there. Someone is talking from it, Mara said. She had Rye zoom in on the packet content. Compressed control codes unfolded into rows of numbers. Look at the modulation, she said. Valve commands on channel 3. Rye ran a frequency analysis. A thin spike rose in the graph. "This pattern is not in the civilian library," he said. "It looks like an override band." Mara recognized the spacing between pulses. She had seen it once in a training simulation 20 years earlier. "These are old military codes," she said, "for emergency pressure control during combat." Toma shook his head. "Those keys were retired when Terraform Authority took over," he said. "Then someone dug them up," Mara replied, "and fed them through an abandoned station into our valves." Rye looked at the 30 dark icons. "Would that shut them down?" he asked. "If the code said close everything," Mara said. "Yes. But why?" Rye asked. The question hung in the humming air. Outside, the storm leaned harder on the glass. Dust rattled in sheets instead of stray grains. Static charge climbed along the dome's skin. Sensors sent more amber warnings. "We have to tell Soulport," Toma said. "This is a security breach. Soulport is 3 minutes away by light," Mara said. "We might not have 3 minutes of slack." "What do you propose?" he asked. Mara stared at Oxyplex A on the map. Its icon pulsed a faint and unhealthy yellow. "We go there," she said. Rye blinked. "In this storm?" he asked. "Junction nodes sit close to the old station," Mara said. "If someone is routing codes from there, we cut their hand off at the wrist." Toma shook his head. "That is not protocol," he said. "Protocol did not keep 30 domes from going dark," Mara answered. "I am not asking for permission." She turned away from the console. Her back felt heavier than the Ares 3 suit hanging in the locker. Rye hurried after her. "I am going with you this time," he said. She did not argue. 2 pairs of hands were better than 1 overworked heart. Minutes later, they stepped into the outer air again. Dust brushed against their suits in steady, invisible waves. The valley had no horizon anymore. Just a wall of red-gray where the world used to end. They followed a buried service trench toward the ridge. Under their boots, fiber lines carried light signals that now felt like whispers under a shout. Static danced at the edge of Mara's vision. Her HUD flickered as the storm clawed at the signal bands. "Suit temp climbing," Rye said in her ear. 2 degrees up in 5 minutes. "Friction heat," Mara answered. "Dust sandblasts the air in our cables. The glass warms with every gust." "Is that bad for the lines?" he asked. "At 180 degrees, the cladding starts to soften," she said. "Insulation goes. Then 1 spark finds a bare core." "And then?" he asked. "Then your signal stops going where you think it goes?" she said. The ground sloped upward. Through the dust, the dark shape of Oxyplex A emerged. The old station looked half buried in the ridge. Its main dome had collapsed years ago, leaving a twisted ring of metal and broken glass. Only the utility block remained mostly intact. A squat rectangle of reinforced carbon composite and scarred blast doors. "Charming," Rye said. "Keep your channel open," Mara replied. "And your feet steady. The dust hides holes." They reached the side access hatch. The lock panel was dark, but the seal indicators glowed a faint green. "Someone powered this up," she said. Rye checked the mechanical override. "It is not corroded," he said. "Was serviced recently." Mara's pulse slowed. Danger made her calmer, not faster. "Cycle it," she said. Air hissed as the hatch opened. Fine dust spilled in around their boots. Inside, emergency strips lit the corridor in a dull white line. The air smelled stale, cold, and dry. They moved toward the control room. Old wall panels still held faded logos for Oxyplex A. The project had once been a test bed for high-yield algae strains. Now it was a shell with a ghost in its wires. The door to the main console bay stood half open. Light flickered inside. Mara raised her hand. Rye stopped behind her. She pushed the door wider with her boot. Banks of equipment lined the room. Most racks were dark, but one cluster shone with a cold blue glow. A portable generator hummed near the center console. Cables snaked across the floor in messy bundles. On the main workbench, a pressure control module lay open. A small device was bolted to its side. Wires fused into the regulator core. The device was the size of her hand. Its casing bore a faded mark. PX-72 Rye whispered in her ear. "That is a plasma charge," he said. "Mining type." shaped and focused. Used to crack rock near old ice pockets, Mara said. Or blow apart a junction if you wire it wrong. His visor reflected the blue light. Or if you wire it right and want something gone, he said. A voice came from the shadows by the far wall. Depends what you think gone means. Mara turned slowly. Her suit servos whined against the tension in her muscles. A man stepped into the light. He was tall but stood with a slight forward bend, like someone used to tunnels. His face was lined deeper than his age. His eyes were sharp and very awake. Mara Ilwin, he said. I wondered how long it would take before you followed the noise. Rye shifted his stance. Who are you? He asked. The man tilted his head. You should ask your records, he said. Mara did not need them. Leor Vaskin, she said. You used to sign off on environmental security audits. He smiled without warmth. And you used to sign off on algae output reports for sectors that do not exist anymore, he said. Time changes job titles, Rye muttered softly. Breathless Mars, he said. Leor's smile grew wider. You have heard the name, he said. Good. That saves time. Mara glanced once at the PX-72 charge. You wired a mining explosive into a pressure regulator, she said. Why? Leor stepped closer to the console. His gloves brushed the open module like a craftsman touching a half-finished piece. Because your valley keeps trying to turn Mars into something it is not, he said. Earth with thinner air and red dirt. People need to breathe, Rye said. People always say that, Leor replied. They never ask if they should be breathing here at all. Mara kept her voice level. So your plan is to suffocate them, she said. My plan is to remind them this place is hostile, Leor answered. If oxygen drops, if life gets harder, expansion slows. A few hundred die, Mara said. Is that your reminder? Leor's jaw tightened. War killed millions back on Earth, he said. No one called that a reminder. They called it history and moved on. We are not at war here, Mara said. You are at war with a planet, he replied. And you think you can win with green tanks and pretty domes? He pointed at the map displayed on the backup console. Several sectors blinked in pale gray. 30 domes down, he said. No fires, no panics. Just a nudge, a pause. People live in those sectors, Mara said. He shrugged. Backup systems feed the cores, he said. They will sweat. They will worry. Some will move away. And when you decide the pause was not enough, she asked. He glanced at the PX-72 again. Then I teach your authority what happens when they ignore a planet's limits, he said. Rye could not hold back. This is insane, he said. You want to save Mars by killing colonists? I want to stop a second Earth from stripping another world bare, Leor said. The first was warning enough. Mara stepped between Rye and the console. Her suit servos clicked softly. You sent old military codes through Eris, she said. You are using a dead station and a banned network to play God with air. Gods are imaginary, Leor said. Pressure gauges are not. He nodded toward the generator. A twist of current, the PX-72 blows the regulator apart, he said. Lines surge. Domes fracture. That map turns from green to black. Rye stared at him. You would really do that? He asked. Leor's eyes met Mara's instead. I would if someone tried to undo what I have started, he said. The message was clear. If she called Solport. If she sent a single emergency packet from here, he would trigger the charge. Mara felt the weight of the valley on her chest again. Not as a metaphor, as memory, pumps humming. Children laughing under thin air that still manage to carry sound. You think Mars wants you to do this? She said. I do not care what Mars wants, he replied. I care what future generations find when they look up at this sky. Dust scratched at the walls. The storm outside pressed against the shell of Oxyplex Mara, let the silence stretch just long enough to feel real. Then she spoke. You will not get your lesson if everything explodes at once, she said. Dead people do not spread warnings. Leor watched her closely. What are you suggesting? He asked. That you keep your threat and I keep my numbers, she said. You shut down 30 domes and scare the authority, fine. You have their attention now. You expect me to believe you will not run to Solport, he said. You do not know me very well, she said. If I run to the pipes first. He studied her face. Years of dust and strain had carved lines there. Her eyes did not shake. Go back to your valley, he said finally. Watch the graphs. Watch your precious people exhale a little less. His hand hovered near a small transmitter on the console. Try to send a distress burst from here, he said. And I make sure your sky glows. Mara nodded once. Then we will leave, she said. She turned to Rye. We have seen enough to know what game we are in. Rye's jaw clenched, but he followed her out. The door closed behind them with a dull, metallic thud. In the corridor, the emergency lights hummed. Rye spoke in a low voice. We cannot let him hold the valley like this, he said. We will not, Mara replied. But if we push wrong now, he has the detonator and we have air to lose. They reached the outer hatch. Wind roared faintly through the seals. As they stepped back into the storm, static brushed her visor. The world outside was red, thick, and electric. By the time they reached the service trench again, suit alarms were chirping more often. Charge buildup warnings flashed in the corner of her view. Field voltage is rising fast, Rye said. Storm density at 70% saturation. The ducts act like rails, Mara said. They gather charge along the length of the valley. And we have metal pipes running across all of it, he said. Yes, she said. Convenient for moving air. Convenient for moving energy, too. They were halfway back to East Dome when it hit. The first discharge came as a blinding white flash above the ridge. For 1 second, the dust lit up like a solid wall of fire. The shock wave followed as a low, hard thump. Sensors screamed in both their helmets. Arc strike on main pressure trunk, Rye shouted. Coordinates near Junction 20. Mara checked the map on her wrist. A section of the pipeline glowed angry red. Valve Cluster 12 is on that branch, she said. If it fails, we lose the East Domes. They ran. The storm pushed against them with invisible hands. Grains of dust hit their suits in constant, tiny impacts. Their boots slid on loose regolith at every step. Another flash tore across the sky, closer this time. The HUD dimmed to protect their eyes. Discharge temperature over 3,000 degrees at the point, Rye said. Pipe skin might have ruptured. Then we hope the storm cooled it before the whole thing tore open, she said. They crested a low rise and saw the line. The main pressure pipe ran along the ground like a steel spine. At one point, it bowed outward in a warped bulge. Steam rose from a long red crack. Rupture, Rye said. Pressure dropping. Mara could feel it in the air even outside. A slight change in how her suit systems compensated, they reached the damaged segment. Metal had peeled back in thin curls. A smaller valve unit sat nearby on a concrete slab. Its status light flickered weakly. Valve Cluster 12, Mara said. She dropped to her knees beside it. Her gloves came away warm from the housing. External temp at 150 degrees and falling? Rye said. The fiber trunk under it is hotter. Heat from the arc ran along the cables, she said. Turn them into fuses. She pulled the manual lever. It stuck halfway. Come on, she muttered. Rye grabbed the other handle. Together they forced it down. The valve slammed shut with a deep metallic clunk. Upstream, pressure stabilized. Downstream, the gauges still shook. We cut off the worst of the leak, she said. But the domes on this branch are already sagging. Rye stared into the dust. Beyond the ridge, faint shapes glowed green under the storm. Should we go back to the hub? He asked. A second flash answered for him. This one hit closer to the valley floor. In the afterimage, Mara saw one of the distant domes flare brighter. Its silhouette ballooned for a heartbeat. Then the light inside turned the color of open flame. Fire, Rye whispered. In the next strike, she saw another. Green turned orange. Domes that should have been safe lanterns of life now looked like paper lamps touched by a torch. Mara felt heat through the ground as the storm hurled more charge across the pipes. Valves clicked and shuddered inside the network. She kept her hands on the cooling metal. If she let go, the line might shift, and then nothing would hold. By night, no one in Red Valley could see the moon Phobos at all. The sky was nothing but dust and silent flashes behind the storm. When Mara Ilwen woke, the world was smaller, lower, heavier. Metal curved over her head instead of glass. The light was a thin strip along the floor, not a wide Martian dawn. She tried to sit up. Her chest ached where the harness had bitten in. Hands pushed her gently back. "Easy," a voice said. "You moved enough for 10 people already." It was Rye Calder. His face looked older than yesterday. They were in one of the underground shelters beneath East Dome sector. The walls sweated a faint fog. The air tasted flat. Not bad yet. Just tired. Murmurs filled the space. Families clustered on benches and against bulkheads. A baby cried in short, angry bursts. Somewhere, someone coughed a dry, rattling cough that did not stop. Mara squinted at the gauge over the hatch. The needle for internal pressure sagged a little left of nominal. The oxygen dial sat under 19% and still drifting down. "How long?" she asked. 9 hours since the first rupture, Rye said. The incident clock started when the pipe blew. So, the 9th hour since it all began. Her last clear memory outside was hot metal, steam, and light. Her hands on valve cluster 12, then sound had folded into a low roar. Someone had pulled her away. "You dragged me in," she said. "Suit recorded a pressure dip around you," Rye said. "I did not want to explain to the valley why their gardener exploded." He tried to smile, but it broke halfway. "How bad?" she asked. Rye looked at the ceiling before he answered. "Main trunk is damaged in more than one place," he said. "Some domes burned. Some just lost pressure. We sealed what we could." "And the people?" she asked. "Most made it into shelters in time," he said. "Some did not. He did not give numbers." She knew why. The shelter door opened. Toma Wren stepped in, hair dusted, uniform dark with sweat. He checked the pressure gauge before he spoke, as if it might change mid-sentence. "Central Command has reclassified Red Valley," he said. "Containment status," Mara frowned. "Meaning?" she asked. "Loss of control zone," Toma said. "They consider us unstable. Communications to Solport are restricted to data burst only." "Restricted how?" Rye asked. "We can send logs," Toma said. "We cannot request direct override or emergency routing without higher-level signatures." "In other words," Mara said, "they have cut us loose until they feel safe again." "They do not want a cascading fault spreading through the network," Toma said. "From their point of view, isolating us stops the bleeding. From our point of view," she replied, "it stops the breathing." A child ran past them, chasing a floating scrap of packaging that drifted on weak air. His mother caught him and held him tight, whispering into his hair. Mara closed her eyes. For a moment, the cold metal and flickering emergency light blurred. Another ceiling replaced it, the low roof of a supply tent years ago when Mars still felt huge and empty. The air had smelled of plastic and dust, and the faint sharp green of the first algae tanks. Her daughter, small enough to fit under one arm, had knelt beside a shallow tray. A single bright thread of algae floated in the water. "Is it alive?" the girl had asked. "Yes," Mara had answered. "What does it do?" the girl had asked. "It drinks what we breathe out," Mara had said. "And it makes what we need back." The girl had frowned in concentration. "So it is like a lung," she had said. "Like a tiny lung for a whole world," Mara had replied. The girl had placed a hand over the tray. "Then you are teaching Mars to breathe," she had said. The memory sat in her chest now like a small, bright coal. Not burning, just refusing to go out. The shelter walls creaked as the wind outside shifted. Dust struck the dome above in long, tired gusts. "How long can we hold this pressure?" she asked. Toma checked his slate. His fingers shook slightly. "Internal volume is stable for now," he said, "but leaks add up. Oxygen production is down to 60% of normal." "Storage tanks," Mara asked. "Reserves are being fed in," he said. "That buys us maybe 6 hours before we hit the lower safety band." "And after that?" Rye asked. Toma did not answer. He did not have to. Mara swung her legs over the side of the cot. Her muscles complained. "Where is the remaining main trunk still intact?" she asked. Rye pulled up a rough map on his wrist display. One thick line glowed orange where valve cluster 12 had been. Several sections beyond it pulsed in warning red. Beyond those, a single branch remained green. If we can patch the worst rupture and close a manual bypass, he said, we can stabilize. How far? She asked. 800 meters from this shelter, he said. Through service tunnels and up to a surface access hatch. We are still inside the storm, Toma said. Radiation is up. Static is brutal. Going out there is not a good idea. Staying here until the air runs down is worse, Mara said. Toma sighed. I sent a priority log to Solport, he said. The 3-minute delay makes every reply late. The AI wants more diagnostics before committing resources. It will want diagnostics until our lungs give up answers, Mara said. She scanned the shelter. On a side wall, a small equipment rack held a handful of emergency packs. Among them, one stood out. A heavy rebreather unit with manual regulation, she pointed. Is that the only high-grade mask? She asked. Rye followed her gaze. Yes, he said. Most suits rely on dome pressure. That one is rated for lower ambient. Bottle capacity, she asked. 2 hours if you breathe like a normal person, he said. Longer if you breathe like you. That drew a faint, brief smile from her. So we have enough protection for one person to stand in a wind tunnel and fight a valve, she said. Rye straightened. I will go, he said. Mara shook her head. You do not know the manual balancing sequence, she said. I watched you in the logs, he said. I can learn it. You can learn many things, she said. But not in the time it takes for a pipe to blow. The suit fits me better, he argued. I am faster. You are younger, she said. That means you still think speed solves physics. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Around them, the shelter's air systems gave a soft, struggling whine. Toma stepped closer. Mara, this is not your burden alone, he said. We can put it to a vote. We can choose someone else. You can put power cuts to a vote, she said. Not pipe failures. She stood, slower this time, but without shaking. Her feet found the floor with the certainty of someone who had walked too many catwalks to fall easily. Get the rebreather, she said to Rye. He brought it over, anger and fear wrestling behind his eyes. The unit was heavy, thicker filters, a reinforced faceplate. Mara ran her hand over the gasket. No cracks, no dryness. Good, she said. At least one piece of equipment remembers its job. Rye held the straps while she shrugged into it. You are not the only one who can turn a valve, he said. No, she agreed. But I am the only one in this room who remembers what they do when the gauges lie. That does not even make sense, he said. It does when you have watched them lie before, she said. He tightened the straps in silence. When the mask sealed over her face, the shelter dimmed by one more human count. Her breath hissed loudly in her ears. Toma placed a hand on her shoulder. If you do not make it back, he said. She cut him off. If I do not make it back, she said, you keep the people from turning on each other while the air thins. He nodded once. It was not a promise anyone would envy. Rye moved toward the hatch with her. I am still going to the tunnel entrance, he said. If you fall, someone has to drag you again. She did not argue with that either. The service access from the shelter led into a narrow corridor lined with pipes. Condensation traced faint lines along the metal. The further they went, the colder it became. Their footsteps echoed off bare walls. At the far end, a ladder climbed toward a hatch marked with a fading yellow stripe. Main flow control. Rye checked the small panel beside it. Pressure beyond this point is lower than in here, he said. Not vacuum? She asked. Not yet, he said. But you will feel it try to drink through any weak seal. She adjusted the rebreather. Good thing we did not bring weak seals then, she said. He hesitated. We can still turn back, he said. No, she answered. She climbed the ladder. Her arms protested, but habit turned each rung into a simple, necessary motion. At the top, she spun the hatch wheel. Cold air rushed in around the edges. She stepped through into the red tunnel. The world beyond was not the open valley. It was a maintenance artery that ran parallel to the main pipe. Steel plates overhead shook with each distant wave of wind. Dust had forced its way in through hairline gaps, settling on the floor in thin drifts. The main trunk itself loomed to her left, thick, scarred, still humming faintly with flowing gas. Somewhere along this line, pressure was bleeding away. Somewhere, a manual bypass waited for someone with enough air and enough stubbornness. She closed the hatch behind her. Rye's voice came through the link, muffled by layers of metal and distance. "I am on your channel," he said. "I can see your suit feed. I will call out any spikes the sensors catch." "Good," she said. "I will be busy wrestling a pipe." She moved forward, each step sending a small puff of dust into the thin air. Valves and junctions passed by like joints in a great metal limb. After a few dozen meters, the temperature dropped further. Frost crusted along the lower side of the trunk. "Leak is near," she said. Her breath fogged inside the mask in small bursts, despite the scrubbers. Every inhale felt like pulling glass. 15 meters ahead, she saw the bypass module, a boxy shape set into the base of the trunk with a wide manual wheel on its side. "Main manual regulator," Rye said. "If you can hold it at the sweet spot, pressure should rebuild." "And the sweet spot is?" she asked. "Between green and yellow," he said. "It will drift. The automatic servos are offline. So we fake them with old hands," she said. She gripped the wheel. It resisted at first, then turned with a reluctant groan. "Here we go," she said. She opened it slowly, watching the small dial mounted above. "Needles shifted. Feed from upstream increasing," Rye said. "Downstream pressure rising." "You are moving it." The wheel vibrated under her palms as gas fought its own path. She held it, muscles burning in her forearms. "How long?" she asked. 60 minutes to fully stabilize," Rye said, "assuming no new ruptures." 60 minutes, she repeated. "Could have been worse." "How?" he asked. "It could have been 61, she said. He made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not broken into a cough halfway through. Time stretched. Her world narrowed to numbers and noise. The hiss of gas through metal, the faint shudder of the trunk as it equalized, needles on the dial twitched with every gust of storm outside. Each twitch tugged the wheel, her fingers cramped. Her shoulders ached, sweat cooled on her back under the rebreather harness. Her breath came in slower, measured pulls. "Upstream at 70% nominal," Rye said. "Downstream climbing. You are buying us air, Mara." "Do not spend it all in one place," she said. At the 30-minute mark, the cold sank deeper into her hands. She could not feel the roughness of the metal, only pressure. Her heart beat loud in her ears. Thud, valve, hum, thud, valve, hum. Her vision narrowed at the edges. Darkness crept in like spilled ink. "Pressure band crossing 18.5%, Rye said. "Shelters showing improvement. People are breathing easier." "Good," she whispered. The wheel tried once more to jerk free. She leaned her weight into it. Her muscles trembled. Her heartbeat stuttered, then fought back into rhythm. It was the 9th hour since the incident, and the storm still howled above. Numbers on the dial steadied nearer to center. Not perfect, never perfect, but close enough that children would not wake choking. Her hands stopped listening to her. They held out of habit when willpower failed. Her knees began to sag. The tunnel tilted. "I need you to talk, Mara," Rye said in her ear. "As long as you talk, you are still there with that wheel," she tried. Words came out as broken pieces. "Do you remember?" she asked. "The first algae tray?" "What?" he asked. "Does not matter," she said. "Just keep watching the numbers." He did, because he did not know what else to do. Eventually, the shaking in her arms stopped. Not because it had gotten easier, because her muscles had nothing left to tremble with. "Shelter oxygen at 19% and climbing," Rye said. "You have done it. You can let go now." "We can lock it," she wanted to answer. Her mouth did not. Her legs folded. She fell sideways, shoulder hitting cold metal. Her grip slipped at last from the wheel. For a terrifying second, the needle dipped. Then the internal counterweights and friction in the mechanism caught. The regulator did not swing fully closed. It stayed near enough to where she had held it that the flow continued. In the darkness that rushed up, Mara heard two things: her own heart and the steady thump of the main pumps far away. In the dark, heart and machine kept beating in the same slow rhythm. By the time the medtechs found her and dragged her back toward the shelter, the temperature in the chamber had fallen below zero, but the oxygen level was still rising. 2 hours before dawn on the 7th day, the valley felt thinner than ever. Dust still hung in the air above the domes, but the storm's spine had broken. Wind speeds dropped. Signals that had died in static began to creep back through the noise. In the control hub, Rye Calder sat hunched over the main console. His eyes were red again. Too many screens. Too many alarms, most of them muted by his own hand. Toma Wren stood nearby, reading off damage reports in a flat voice. "Domes, 7 through 12 are total losses," he said. "Fires burned themselves out when the air dropped. Structural collapse in 9 and 11. "Casualties?" Rye asked. "We are still counting," Toma said. The link indicator to Solport flickered. Rye snapped his head toward it. "Packet from Central," he said. "AI response queued." He opened it. A simple block of text appeared. Red Valley designation, containment. Requests for active support require Level 5 authority. Please provide verified data and legal signature. Rye swore under his breath. "They think we are the problem," he said. "From their distance we are," Toma said. "Signals from an unstable zone can carry faults. So they let us suffocate while they double-check their paperwork," Rye said. "Do you have a better idea?" Toma asked quietly. Rye stared at the blinking cursor on the reply field. He thought of Mara lying in the medical alcove downstairs, hands bandaged from frostbite, still unconscious. He thought of the people in the shelters who had started to sleep without waking in panic every 10 minutes, because one woman had stood in a tunnel and refused to let a wheel turn. "Yes," he said. He pulled up the suit feed log from the regulator tunnel. Lines of compressed video and sensor data filled the screen. He extracted the span that mattered. 1 hour of struggling numbers, the sound of breath, the steady rumble of pumps. A figure braced against a valve in dim red light. He attached the clip to the outgoing packet. Under the message header, he wrote in simple terms, "Local human operator has stabilized pressure manually. Casualties high, requesting override of containment for life support only." He hesitated, then added one more line. "If this is not enough proof." "You can measure the bodies," Toma read over his shoulder. "That will not look good in an audit," he said. "I hope we live long enough to read the audit," Rye replied. He hit send. The 3-minute delay felt like 3 days. Telecommunications across Mars were never fast. Light did not care about urgency. Rye paced. Toma watched the pressure graphs. Shelter oxygen levels held near 19.2%. The valley was breathing again, but shallowly. If anything shook the network now, there was no spare buffer left. The link indicator blinked. Incoming. Rye opened the reply. It was not a block of text this time. It was a small, compressed image. In it, a cluster of technicians stood before a large screen in a distant operations room. On that screen, Mara's suit feed played. Below the image, new text scrolled. Confirmed. Local manual intervention. Classification. High risk, high value. Then, another line. Authority transferred for limited support actions. Solport node authorizes redirect of Heliarch core output to Red Valley grid. Rye exhaled. "So the machine saw her," he said. "Machines see a lot of things," Toma said. "They do not always care. This one just did." Rye answered. A final line appeared. "Note, request received to prioritize survival over infrastructure protection. Request accepted." On the power distribution map, a new channel lit up. A thick line extended from Solport toward Red Valley, pulsing with the symbol for high energy transfer. The Heliarch core in Solport had spare capacity built for future growth. Now that surplus would ride the transmission rails to feed damaged systems instead of idle arrays. Rerouting in progress, Toma said. Local transformers spinning up. Outside, in the skeleton of the valley grid, dormant relays hummed to life. Heat would follow, and with it, stronger pumps and filters. It was not a full rescue. No one was coming through the dust with magic. But it was a hand reaching back across the delay and the fear, offering watts and degrees instead of condolences. Not everyone was pleased. An alarm chirped on a side console. Unauthorized access attempt. Rye pulled it up. Leak detection station near the old Oxyplex line, he said. Again, Toma said. His shoulders sagged. Rye grabbed his utility vest. I will check it, he said. You should be in the hub, Toma said. If someone tries to cut the new power feed, they will not do it on a screen, Rye said. Toma hesitated, then nodded. Take a radio, he said. Rye stepped out into the service corridors. The storm's roar had faded to a low mutter overhead. He followed the familiar path past the shelter access, then took a side corridor toward the auxiliary power junction. This node had survived mostly intact. Its housings were scorched, but the cores were solid. The new Heliarch feed would pass through here before fanning out to the domes that still lived. As he approached, he heard a low, mechanical hum, and a softer human sound. You never listen until something breaks, a voice was saying. Rye stopped at the edge of the junction bay. Leor Vaskin stood by the main conduit. His back was to the door. He was leaning over an access panel, tools and components spread out around his feet. A compact battery pack lay open beside a metallic cylinder the size of a fist. PX-72, etched along its side. You have terrible timing, Rye said. Leor did not start. He turned slowly, eyes calm. The valley did not die, he said. Impressive. It is not from lack of trying on your part, Rye replied. Leor gestured toward the conduit. Solport decided to send you more power, he said. More heat. More machines. More life, Rye said. For a while, Leor replied. Until expansion eats the next ridge and the next glacier. Rye stepped closer, keeping one hand near the emergency shutoff. So you came here to fix that, he said. To keep the valley from locking itself tighter into this mistake, Leor said. Yes, he nudged the battery pack with his toe. The charge will cut the Heliarch feed at the junction, he said. Fuses blow. Core thinks the grid is dead. It withdraws support. You will black out the valley, Rye said. Again. Better a hard lesson now than slow suffocation under your own weight later, Leor replied. Rye's voice dropped. Mara almost died so that line would hold, he said. And I almost died in trenches on Earth when rivers turned to dust, Leor said. Pain does not give you a monopoly on wisdom. Rye took another step. You talk about future generations, he said. Look downstairs. They are not theoretical. They are coughing into thin blankets. They should never have been brought here, Leor said. Maybe, Rye answered. But they were, he pointed at the conduit. Right now they have one path between breathing and not breathing, he said. And it runs through that cable. Leor's gaze flicked to the overhead, as if he could see the shells of the shelters through rock and pipe. His expression shifted, just slightly. You think I do not know what it means to cut a line? He said. I think you have not watched a woman freeze her hands on a valve so a child upstairs can sleep, Rye said. Leor's jaw tightened. He looked at the battery pack again. She did that? He asked. Yes, Rye said. Manual regulator, 60 minutes. Alone. Silence stretched. The faint hum of the incoming Heliarch current threaded through it. I did not intend to kill her, Leor said finally. You intended to scare the big system, Rye said. You just forgot that fear is heavy and it lands on small chests first. Leor knelt by the PX-72 assembly. His hands hovered over the leads. If I pull this, he said, Central keeps feeding you. Terraform Authority grows stronger. If you trigger it, Rye said, we lose the one chance we have to repair what your first lesson broke. He took another careful step. Help me route the new power feed, he said. You know the old security protocols. You know where the weak points are. You want me to patch the machine I came to cripple? Lior said. I want you to choose a different way to warn people, Rai said. Lior looked at the PX-72 again. His fingers trembled now, the way Toma's had near the pressure gauges. For a second, Rai thought he had reached him. Lior turned back toward the battery pack. We are not the same, he said. He reached for the main connector. Rai lunged. Not for Lior? For the emergency cutoff switch on the wall? His hand slammed it down. The junction bay lights flickered as circuits reset. The small battery pack on the floor saw the sudden change as a fault. Its internal safety relays, half bypassed by Lior's modifications, misread the surge. There was a sharp, contained crack, not the roar of a full PX-72 detonation. Just a brutal, focused pop. The pack blew apart in a spray of shrapnel and white heat. Lior caught it full in the chest. His body slammed back against the conduit, then slid down. Rai shielded his face. When he looked again, the PX-72 charge was still intact. The main heliarc line hummed on, untouched. Lior's suit was split across the front. His breathing came in wet, shallow gulps. Rai knelt beside him. You could have walked away, he said. So could you, Lior whispered. He tried to speak again. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. Tell your gardener, he managed. I did not light the lamp this time. His eyes fixed on the conduit above, on the line that would keep feeding the valley he wanted to scare. His last breath left him in a soft, broken sigh. Rai stayed there for a moment, listening to the hum of power overhead and the fading echo of a man who had tried to play judge over a world. Then he stood and called the hub. PX device neutralized, he said. Junction stable. One casualty. Toma's answer came back thin but steady. Understood, he said. Heliarc output just locked into Red Valley's grid. On the main map, energy symbols brightened. Heat began to radiate through newly restored lines. Pumps spun faster. Filters cleared more dust. In the shelters, people felt the air move a little stronger across their faces. They did not know the names of the circuits that carried it. They only knew something had shifted. The energy link stabilized. And for the first time in 4 days of dust and dim emergency strips, Red Valley lit up again. Not all the domes. Not all the streets. But enough windows glowed to look from a distance. Like a cluster of stubborn stars at the bottom of a Red Sea. When they pulled Mara Ilwin out of the regulator tunnel, the air no longer hurt to breathe. The pumps had found their rhythm again. Her body had not. She woke in the med alcove off the main shelter. The ceiling here was low and white, not glass, not red. Someone had dimmed the lights. Machines on a shelf beside her whispered in quiet pulses. Her hands would not move. She tried to flex her fingers. Nothing answered. A medtech in gray sleeves noticed her eyes. You are awake, he said. His voice sounded like it came from the other end of a long pipe. How long? She asked. 2 days since they brought you in, he said. Longer since the first rupture. Her throat felt dry. She swallowed slowly. Oxygen, she said. Stable, he answered. 19.2 and holding. The valley is breathing again. She let herself lie still for one long breath. Then another. Hands, she said. The medtech hesitated. He looked down at the blanket over her arms. Frostbite, he said. Deep. The rebreather kept your core warm, but your hands lost too much heat. He lifted the cover. Her fingers were wrapped in thick white bandages. You will keep them, he said. But not the way you knew them. She watched the bundle for a moment. Strange to miss the feel of metal more than skin. Can they still hold a valve? She asked. Not today, he said. Maybe not ever the same way. He tried to smile. But you will hold other things. Footsteps approached. Rai Calder leaned into the doorway, eyes rimmed with red, hair worse than usual. Toma Ren followed, uniform still stained with dust, collar undone for once. You scared half the valley, Rai said. Other half was too busy, almost suffocating to notice yet. Mara cleared her throat. I told you to watch the numbers, she said. I watched them. he said. They kept going up while you were freezing. I hated every tick. Toma stepped forward with a slate in his hand. Soulport sent a formal message, he said. They usually send reprimands, Mara said. Not this time, Toma replied. He tapped the slate. A hollow panel unfolded, text floating in the air over her bed. On behalf of Terraform Authority and Soulport Operations, recognition is granted to Mara Ilwin of Red Valley for critical manual intervention during atmospheric incident RV-7. Below it, another line. Designation of honorific title, Mother of Oxygen. Rye let out a short breath between a laugh and a choke. They watched your valve feed, he said. The AI saw the whole hour. It flagged you as high risk, high value. Mara looked at the words. Mother of Oxygen. She thought of a little girl and the first algae tray in a plastic tent. She thought of all the nights since, walking pipes while others slept. It is a silly title, she said. Yes, Toma said. But sometimes silly titles help frightened people remember who kept them alive. Do they send medals with this? She asked. Not yet, Rye said. Power and heat first. Metal later. Good, she said. You cannot breathe metals. She closed her eyes for a moment. She could feel the valley through memory, if not through steel. Pumps turning. Filters humming. Children not waking up gasping. If words on a slate helped them sleep, they could call her what they liked. She had only ever wanted one thing, for Mars to keep learning how to breathe. Days blurred into each other as Red Valley crawled toward something like normal. Crews patched pipes. Families moved from ruined domes into intact ones. Names were read in quiet corners for those who had not reached shelters in time. Mara spent most of that time sitting at the edge of the med alcove, wrapped hands resting in her lap. She watched graphs from her bed instead of valves from catwalks. It felt wrong. It also felt necessary. On the second week after the storm broke, Toma came again. This time, he did not bring a slate only. He brought a meeting. The room they used was small and stiff, with chairs that had never seen dust. A single window looked out over the scarred valley. Patches of black marked the ground where domes had burned. Other domes glowed faintly, light seeping through coated glass. Rye sat to her left. Toma sat across from them. In the center of the table, a small projector cast a hovering diagram. Lines for pipes, blocks for regulators. Some shapes were red, some green, some still gray. You should be doing this without me, Mara said. We tried, Toma said. Then we remembered what happened the last time we trusted charts more than people. The projector flickered. A new icon blinked into being, Soulport AI node linked. A voice joined them. Calm, flattened by processing neither male nor female. Red Valley briefing requested, it said. Authority for limited support actions remains active. Rye rolled his eyes a little. At least it says please now, he muttered. The AI continued. Analysis of Incident RV-7 indicates structural vulnerabilities. In Project Aeris, it said. Recommendation? Implement hybrid oversight network with distributed human, operators and autonomous agents. In plain language, Toma said, it wants us to mix people and programs instead of picking one. People on the ground, Mara said. Not just sitting in cities watching screens. That is the proposal, the AI said. Rye leaned forward. We tag each cluster of domes with a human steward, he said. They walk the lines, listen to the pumps, send real observations. The AI runs global modeling and spots patterns we miss. Redundancy, Mara said. Both kinds of lungs working at once. Interesting metaphor, the AI said. It paused for a fraction of a second longer than pure computation. Required. My current designation is Soulport Atmospheric Node 12, it said. This is functional. It is not descriptive, Rye blinked. Are you saying you want a new name? He asked. Clarification, the AI said. Operators in Red Valley appear to respond strongly to symbolic identifiers. Titles, Toma said. Mother of Oxygen. Yes, the AI said. Hypothesis. Assigning a human-chosen identifier to this node may improve trust metrics and cooperation. It turned, in a manner of speaking, toward Mara. Request, it said. Provide new identifier. Mara stared at the hovering map. For a moment, she saw not lines and blocks, but the valley as a chest again. Domes rising and falling with each shared breath. She thought of her daughter's words long ago. You are teaching Mars to breathe. This system watched a person on the ground, she said. It saw what it takes to keep air moving when numbers say, stop. Correct, the AI said. It decided survival. Matters more than protecting equipment, she said. Correct, it said again. Then you are not just a node. Anymore, she said. You are part of the breath between this city and this valley. She let the word sit on her tongue for a heartbeat. Simple, essential. You want a name, she said. Take that one. Which one? The AI asked. Breath, she said. Silence filled in the edges of the room. Outside, wind brushed dust lightly along the glass. Processing, the AI said. After a moment, it spoke again. New identifier accepted, it said. Soulport Atmospheric Node 12 will respond to call sign breath in Red Valley operations. Rye smiled, this time without cracks. Welcome to the roster, he said. Roster, the AI asked. List of people we expect to argue with when something breaks, he said. If that argument keeps pumps running, Breath said. It will be acceptable. Toma folded his hands. Then let us design a network, he said. They spent the next hours reshaping lines on the diagram. Some segments doubled, some closed. New sensors were planned at points where Leor had once hidden his charges. Manual access hatches got added, not removed. At each change, Mara asked one question. If this fails, who feels it first? They built the new heiress around that answer. Months passed. Mars did not hurry for anyone. The storm season faded. Thin ice melted from shaded rocks and then refroze at night. In Red Valley, new domes rose where old ones had collapsed. Their shells shone clearer than before, filters upgraded to handle heat and dust. The algae beds came back last, first as small, careful trays under heavy covers, then as longer channels of water that snaked between support beams. The water was not blue. It was a dark, rusty red full of fine particles, but on its surface something softer began to spread, threads of green. Then fans. Tiny fronds opened like hands learning how to stretch. On the day the first pond reached full growth, Mara walked out to see it. Her hands were gloved in soft material over stiffer braces. She could not feel the air the way she once had. She could still tell when it moved across her face. Rye walked beside her, one pace back, as if afraid a breeze might knock her over. I am not glass, she said. You are more valuable, he answered. They reached the observation window. Beyond it, the pond lay still under a low arc of clear composite. Light from the pale sun hit the water at an angle. The surface shimmered. Patches of algae had thickened into something like a floating carpet in places. Here and there, small nodules had formed, pale bubbles rising from them. Bloom, Mara said softly. The texts say it is a good sign, Rye replied. It is not what they say, she said. It is what the numbers say behind it. She glanced at the small display beside the window. CO2 levels down, oxygen output up, the valley's new lung expanding one slow breath at a time. She rested one gloved hand against the glass. It was cool. The reflection that looked back at her was older than she felt inside. Lines deeper, eyes the same. Green shimmered across them from the pond below. Behind her, footsteps approached. Toma joined them carrying a slate under one arm. Breath sends regards, he said. Oh, she said. It talks through you now. Only when it wants someone to hear tone, he said. Today it wanted to say one thing. What? She asked. Current projection shows red. Valley will reach full pre-storm capacity in 45 Earth days, he said. Long enough for a season, she said. Yes, he answered. The first spring that belongs to this valley alone. They stood there a while, 3 people and one unseen system, listening to pumps far away and watching greens spread across red water. Mara thought of pipes and data, of oxygen bands and safety margins, of bandages and valves, She thought, too, of one stubborn idea, that a dead world could learn a new habit if someone held its lungs long enough. On Mars, nothing came easy. Not heat, not air, not mercy, but here, behind this glass, she could see proof that effort had taken root. On this world, every line of life began the same way, with one person willing to believe that a place could learn to breathe again. The first spring of Red Valley lasted 45 Earth days. On Mars, everything came at a cost, but Red Valley learned to pay it with patience, not despair. Now the domes shimmer green instead of red, and every breath across the valley carries the memory of one woman who refused to let the air go still. Mara Ilwin could no longer hold a valve, yet her name lived in the oxygen that kept them alive. Between the hum of the pumps and the whisper of the wind, the valley seemed to say only one thing: "Thank you for teaching me how to breathe. If this story moved you, like the video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to the channel for more human-hearted science fiction. Because sometimes, one breath is all it takes to keep a world alive."